Welcome to Haunted Road Trip Show, where paranormal history is dying to be heard. I'm Tracy St. Croi, psychic, medium, and your guide through the strange, the haunted, and the unexplained. Join us in these spirited conversations with my fellow mystical folk, sharing chilling stories that pull back the veil on the paranormal world in ways you may have never experienced before. So buckle up, things are about to get spooky.
All right, welcome everybody to another fantastic episode of Haunted Road Trip Show. My oh my, what a season this has been already. But I am going to tell you what, you guys, you might or might not want beverages or to put beverages down because the guest that I have today probably is going to make your jaw drop and you might cough a bit. Okay, because he has the piping hot tea on all things, well, let's just call them on the very intense side of hauntings and spirituality. I have with us today Joe Franke, and he is well known for being trained with the Warrens. Yes, 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 those Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren. He trained with them for years in all things haunted, spooky, and ooky. And he is going to help us unravel some maybe some mysteries, clear up some facts, and, maybe share a story or two. So buckle on in, folks, because this is going to be an interesting ride. And for those of you who have joined my Patreon, we're going to have a special episode of that with Joe in there. So if you haven't joined, go ahead and join for free so you can get all the tea. Now, Joe, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well. How are you, Tracy?
I'm good. I am so excited that this is happening.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry I had to reschedule on you. I wasn't feeling well last week. I was
Yeah,
under the weather.
it happens. It's okay. Sometimes we make plans and God's laugh.
Yeah,
God's laugh at
true.
us. But I can tell you, I have told a couple of people that you've been coming on my podcast and their heads basically turned and were like, "What? You got him to come on your podcast to talk about what he's seen and done?" I said, "Yeah." I
Hmm.
said, "Matter of fact, I got to spend a whole day with him."
And
I
we will
sure did.
again, because I will
Yes,
be coming back to San Antonio in September.
yes, yes. We met at the Paranormal Fest at Victoria's Black Swan Inn last summer.
Hmm.
We were vendor mates, I guess you could call it. We were sitting right next to each other, and boy,
Neighbors.
yeah, we had a jolly good time. That was a divine date, for sure. But tell everybody about tell everybody what your training is in. What is your specialty in? How do you describe it?
Well, I started, like you said, I started with the Warrens back when I was a teenager, and Ed Warren basically took me under his wing and taught me the world of demonology.
Mm-hmm.
um, as he learned it, as he knew and experienced it. And I do pretty much only residential cases. I help
Yeah.
people that may or may not have a paranormal affliction. You have to have that gift of discernment to really, discern whether someone's really having a paranormal issue or not. Maybe it's just something else. Maybe it's something they're experiencing naturally. They just can't explain. Unfortunately, maybe some kind of psychological disorder or something that leads them to believe that they may have some kind of attachment or demonic influence, if you will. So I would say, very small percentage of cases I get involved in actually have a paranormal connection. What I have found these days with all the technology that we have and social media influence, that people seem to jump, or as I say, I put it, take the nuclear option And if something happens, they see or hear something they can't explain, they automatically take that nuclear option and say it's a ghost or a demon or something like that. That word demon is just thrown around way too loosely these days, in my humble opinion. What I tell folks, whether they be my general audience or a member of my team, someone I may be training, or even an audience of my peers, is you always want to look for a natural explanation,
Right.
rather than just immediately jump to the supernatural. And I've worked on cases where we've found mice or rats or squirrels or raccoons in a person's house that may be the culprits causing these scratching noises or these thumping noises, things like that. So, you always want to look, at a natural explanation as opposed to the supernatural. Now, with that said, once you've exhausted all your efforts,
Right.
it may be paranormal. I mean, what does the word paranormal mean? Basically, it means that which is beyond, beyond, or above or beyond, scientific explanation.
Yeah.
If I turn around the corner and I see somebody levitating, well, that's kind of paranormal because I can't explain. But, then again, you want to look at a natural solution. Is this guy got magnets? Is there some kind of air compressor or something? You don't want to automatically think, oh my God, it's the Antichrist. And for people these days, that's the cool thing. And let me tell you, it's not cool. When you've
No, it's
experienced
not.
it, when you've lived it, when you've laughed and cried with families and with people that are generally terrified because they
Yeah.
don't understand what's going on. And I said, well, let's try and help you understand what's going on, but you have to do your research. That's right. I call myself a paranormal researcher, not a paranormal investigator, because the investigation is part of the research. If you do very good, meticulous research, rarely do I need to even go and do an investigation. You don't
You
need
just
to
have a
break out
set
all the.
list of questions already.
Yeah. Well, and I don't. I've sat with people and had coffee at their kitchen table. I've gone around with them and blessed their homes and helped them learn how to bless their homes, and if they're of a particular religion, to get close to God. But don't automatically think you have a demon in your house. You might have familiar demons or personal demons. You might have
Right, exactly.
a checkered past or a history of violence or drug or alcohol abuse or maybe some kind of psychosis that may be checked or unchecked. But there's so many things that you need to research and look into before you decide to grab Scooby-Doo and throw him in the mystery machine. But that's not cool. And most people out there, and I'd say a very high percentage of people out there that do the work and may be very well meaning, they don't really know how because they weren't properly trained. I feel that I was very fortunate that when I was an 18-year-old snot-nosed teenager fresh out of high school and I met Ed Lorraine Warren at one of their lectures and was asked by them, invited by them to become one of their students at the time, I didn't know anything. I was interested in ghosts and spirits and things like that, but it opened up an entire different world to me.
Yeah.
And it changed my life because here I sit before you 40 years later, literally 40 years later, and I'm still doing the work. And all I want to do, the message has not changed. I want to help those that may need my help. Not everyone needs
Right.
the kind of help I provide. But at least if it's a kind of help I can't provide, I might be able to shed some light on what they're experiencing or what they think they're experiencing. These people that come to me, I don't feel that they're lying and making this up. In their mind, it's very real.
Right. First things
It's say,
first with paranormal investigations, how about, believe them what they say and then, believe them, give them the respect as a person. Like, okay, I want to know your experience. Show them that, like, I'm here to at least listen to what's going on.
yep. I mean, case in point, if I may, I had a woman about 2 weeks ago send me a message. We're not friends on social media, but she had heard of me. She lives in Connecticut, where I am, and she was concerned that she had I don't know, I'm sure she had full custody, but she had her 13-year-old grandson, and she said that they're having some paranormal, or what they believe are paranormal experiences, but she said it's usually only when the 13-year-old is around. So I had one of my researchers contact the woman because I had been traveling. I just got back 2 days ago. I was traveling, and I spoke to my researcher, my good friend of 25 years, who's very experienced. I spoke to her last night and got the lowdown, and found out that by probing and asking the right questions, and one question may lead to 10 more, depending on their answer, their response, that there is a history of mental illness.
Right.
There is a history of drug abuse, which is fairly recent, you know. Um, so that right there tells me, okay, we may be dealing with something that's not paranormal,
Yeah.
but we're going to see it through, but I'm not going to jump in the car and head over to where she lives, which is probably about 45 minutes from me. But my time is very valuable to me, as is yours. And, if this poor soul needs some kind of help that I can't provide, at least maybe I could give her some good advice, you know. So this is a new case, so to speak. I mean, it isn't officially a case. It's more of a greeting, a meeting, so to speak, to find out what's going on. But some of the outlandish things that she's claiming is happening. I said, okay, and I got the idea that this woman really believes in her own mind that these things are
Right.
happening, but I'm not convinced. And I said, well, I'm going to need some authoritative, tangible proof of this, which she
Yeah.
couldn't provide. I'm going to need some audio or video footage, ring camera footage, or something like that. So what I tell people is, look, I'm here to help. I don't charge a dime for what I do. I don't charge people to help them, but you need to help me help you. Okay? If you're coming to me for help, I'm going to give you what I call homework. I'm going to
Yeah.
give
I
you some
need the
things to
receipt.
do, but I expect you to do that. If you're not going to do that and you just want to call and tell me an outlandish story, I don't have time for that. When there are people out there maybe experiencing things that really do need my help, or one of my colleagues' help. I'm certainly not the only one that does this work,
No,
but I
you're
want to
certainly
help
not,
as
but I
many
think that
people
you're
as I
one of
can.
them that I think that you're one of them from what I know of you, that you really come from a true heart space of
Oh yeah.
wanting to help and be of service, and really, help to get down to the root of things for people where others motives might be skewed, shall we say, in what
Yeah.
they're really looking to do. But I did have a question for you. Um what drew you to that lecture with Ed and Lorraine Warren? Can you recall, like, was there like I'm kind of interested in this stuff, and like, let me just go see
Mhm.
what these people have to say, or like, you just
Well, it's a
wandered
very
in?
good question. It's a very good question. I get that often. And what I usually do when I start out, talking about me and how I got involved in the work, was I had what I refer to as a defined experience when I was 3 years old, three and a half to be
Okay,
exact. Because when you're that young, the half means a lot.
it does.
I was very close to my maternal grandfather. I was actually named after him.
Aw.
And my maternal grandfather was Joseph Martin Quinn. I am Joseph Martin Franke. And well, he was very proud of that fact that I was his namesake, and that he was very close to me. But my grandfather, God rest his soul, I believe is a saint. My grandfather worked on the railroad in Connecticut, and
Right.
very very strapping man. Very barrel chested. Only about 5'8", 5'9". I'm 6'3", but I have his size, and he took a shine to me, and he used to bring me with him to church. He'd go to church every morning. There used to be 5 o'clock mass. He was a very devout Catholic. Now I didn't go every day with him, but there were days I remember. This is days before car seats, and I remember sitting in the front seat of his Chevy Impala that he had won from a carnival a raffle. I remember, and I remember looking, and I couldn't see above the dashboard, but getting into the story, I was very close to him. And one of the things that my grandfather did was every night before bed that he had an easy chair in his bedroom, and he would sit and read passages from the Bible just about every night. This is from what my mom tells me. And one night he retired to bed, said to my grandmother, he goes, I'm going up. I'll see you in a few minutes. My grandmother said, I'll be up shortly. Now, going back to my house, it was a Monday night in November. My parents had put us to bed. I had a brother and a sister. We were all shared the
Uh-huh.
same room at the time. And my brother and I had bunk beds. I was on the bottom bunk. And my parents were out watching football. And she said, all of a sudden, I came out through the door and they could tell I was still asleep. I was sleepwalking. My eyes were closed. And I said, what? Mommy, what? Someone called Joe. Someone called me. My parents looked at each other and said, he's just dreaming. He's sleepwalking. She puts me back to bed. Shortly thereafter, again, I came out of the room, sleepwalking and talking in my sleep. So my mother puts me back into bed a second time, and the phone rings. It's my grandmother. She goes, I cannot wake up your father. What had happened was my grandfather had fallen asleep in his chair with the Bible on his lap, and he
Hmm.
had a heart attack. They feel he fell asleep and he had a heart attack in his sleep because, they think that he would have cried out or yelled out, but at any rate, what I heard in my dream was his name or my name, Joseph, being called. And so that's what I call it my divine experience. I feel that I had such a connection with my grandfather that I heard the Lord calling him. And I was so close to him that I caught that message. So
Wow.
fast forward 15 years when I'm 18 years old. My wife and my wife now of 33 years last week, that's why we were away celebrating our anniversary. Laurel and I have been together almost 40 years. Matter of fact, we met Ed and Lorraine Warren together. So what had happened was we were newly dating. I was fresh out of high school. It was November or October of 86. I forget the exact date. But I had just graduated probably in May or June. And I met Laurel at the gym. And she asked me out. And I accepted. And now when we fight, I say, you started this. So I have that going for me. But anyway, so Laurel saw in the local, to answer your question, I'm giving you the long way around the barn here. But Laurel had seen in the local newspaper that the Warrens were going to be lecturing about 2 exits down the highway in the next town over. So she's like, yeah, would you like to go see the Warrens lecture? Now, I had heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren. I had heard of the Amityville case. I had read the book. So I knew who they were, but I had never met them. Back then we didn't have the internet and all that. So I had seen them on TV and through print media and radio interviews. So I went down, and as I walked in, Lorraine was standing at the table, selling the tickets and greeting people. And she looked at me in a very odd way. She kind of tilted her head to the side. It's the kind of look that you give someone where you're like, God, I know this person, but I just can't picture where I know them or what their name is. And she said
Right.
to me, I remember this as if it was yesterday. She said, honey, have we met before? And I said, no, Lorraine. I said, I've never met you and Ed before, but I've heard a lot about you. And she's looking at me. She goes, there's a reason why you're here tonight. She goes, make sure you see Ed and I after the show. She goes, I want to talk to you. So I was very excited. I'm like, oh my God, Laurel, what do they want to talk to me about? I mean, I didn't, I could hardly contain my thoughts. So we get through the show, and at the end of the show, Lorraine was such a sweetheart. She's answering everybody's questions. Tony and Ed are gathering all up the stuff, the projector and all that stuff. I'm like, come on, Lorraine, let's go. I'm hungry. So one of the things that we used to do is we would convene at a local diner. And there was one right down the street from where we were. And we'd always reflect on the events of the evening, whether it be a lecture or a case we were investigating. And I remember we're sitting there. She's sitting across from me and she's holding my hands. Now, I didn't know what she was doing at first, but then she told me. She was, honey, I'm reading your aura. Lorraine had the ability to read the colors of your aura. Everyone has an aura. It's that
Right.
supernatural glow that emanates from all of us. And she said, I can tell from your aura that you were meant to do this work. That's why you were here tonight. Would you like to come and work with Ed and I? We're forming classes. And I said, yeah, without skipping a beat.
Right.
Okay, this is exactly 39 years ago, 1986. And, the rest, as they say, is history. So that's when the first class I remember was a little place called Hawley Manor in Newtown, Connecticut. It was maybe about the double the size of a big coat closet. It was just a little back room that the restaurant let them use to conduct their classes. And that's when I first learned about Amityville firsthand,
Let's
and
talk about
Annabelle,
that.
and the cases that the Conjuring movies are based on. You know, sorry, go ahead,
Yeah,
Tracy.
that's an interesting process because Annabelle is hot right now. She is that that is a trending
Yeah, Annabelle is always a fascinating subject. Yeah.
is a very fascinating subject. How um what are your thoughts? Because online, there's kind of two different philosophies of the Warrens wouldn't have liked this going on with their stuff from their museum, or they had intended to.
Well,
What do you sense?
I could tell you from, with all due respect to the family, I know what Ed Warren said to me. And I remember Ed saying to me, he's like, these items will not leave this museum. They are intended to be there for the public to see, for the world to see and learn from. And know that these items are not to be played with, not to be fooled around with. Um, I know that's what he said to me. Now, I know some of the items were taken on a tour, and I'm not sure or not whether that had Lorraine's blessing, because we lost Ed Warren back in 2006. God
Right.
rest his soul. And Lorraine passed in 2019. I can't believe it was like yesterday that I last saw her. Um, but that's not for me. I don't own the items. It's not for me to judge. They can do what they like with them. But I believe that they're doing what they're doing with the items is educating the public about the items.
Yeah.
I know that the family unfortunately could not have, from what I heard through the years, they could not have crowds of people at the home to view the items, because where the home is, it's in a like on a cul-de-sac, and I know that the neighbors may have complained about the excessive amount of cars and crowds, and I guess I can't blame them to a point. So
Yeah.
it was more or less that they were in a bind where they couldn't bring people to the items to educate them on, so they brought some of the items out to the people. I have mixed feelings about that personally, but again, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone in the family or anything. That's not for me to decide. But I know Ed. Um, I don't think he would have approved of this personally, but I don't know. Um,
Fair enough.
that's I'm trying to be kind when I say this, because I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not like that. But I certainly probably wouldn't remove those items from their protected states.
That was my next
Um,
question for you
yeah, go
about
ahead.
that.
Well, the items, as I understand, were protected. There was clergy brought in regularly to bless the items and contain them, so they were protected, and the energy within was contained to where they were. They were bound, so to speak.
Right. Bound in
Um,
there. Yeah.
I can tell you, I have held the Annabelle doll personally on numerous occasions when Ed Warren was alive. Not in recent years. I haven't actually seen the real doll, and probably since Lorraine passed away, 6 or 7 years. So I can't speak to that. But I handled the doll on a few occasions under Ed's tutelage and under his um, under his guise, under his.
Wow.
But because I remember the first time Ed was talking to me about it, Ed used to call me up. I'll back up a second. Ed called me up on many occasions and say, "Hey kid, what are you doing?" He used to call me kid. "Hey kid, what are you doing today?" I'm like, I'm just gonna cut the grass. Or what do you need? Need help with something? In case. And he's like, "Well, come down to my office for a few hours. I want to go over some stuff with you." So I had the distinct honor of actually going and sitting with Ed in his office, just the two of us. And he would show me things and talk to me about cases. His office was just adjacent to the museum. And we'd go out into the museum and it'd say, okay, so this doll is not to be fooled with. And I remember looking at it, he goes, would you like to hold her? He goes, I don't do this for everybody, Joe, but I'll do this for you. So he opened up the case. He goes, go ahead, pick her up. I picked her up respectfully. I was probably crapping my pants. I mean, at that point, I was
That's what
probably
I'm wondering. I'm like, what is your biological state at that
well, I
point?
mean,
Is your heart
at the time, you got to
pounding?
understand. At the time, I didn't know anything. I was
Right, you
just
didn't have a
learning.
story in your mind.
But I had respect because I learned how to respect these things.
Right.
You need to we need to respect spirits just like we need to respect one another.
I agree.
You have to have respect. Even for the negative, or dare I say, demonic. Okay, do I fear them? No, not anymore, because, like I said, one of my favorite lines is, "Faith and fear cannot coexist."
Right,
I am very
exactly.
deeply rooted in my faith. Okay. And if you're deeply rooted in your faith and it's unshakable, what do you have to fear? Turn around and look and see who's in your corner. All right. Now, but what I do say is I respect these things, these entities, and I respect the power they possess, the knowledge they possess, which is, they have power beyond human comprehension, and they have the wisdom of the ages. They know everything, but they know your deepest, darkest sins. So that's why I always say, if I'm going to be, when I was involved in exorcisms and, cases, I would go and confess my sins, because you want to be in a state of grace or in a state
Yeah,
of absolution.
like,
Because if you have a sin that you have confessed and been absolved of that sin, they can't use it against you. But if you forget one, they'll know. They know everything. So this is what I try to teach when I go around speaking.
yeah.
I
And I
I
just
don't know
want to make
everything.
sure, like, I just want to reiterate your earlier point to the viewers out there
Oh yeah.
that, like, this type of activity that you're talking about is rare.
I know you are loving this episode, so come hang out with us on Patreon, where you'll get bonus content, behind the scenes access, exclusive discounts, and a spooky community that actually gets the love of your paranormal obsessions. So join us at hauntedroadtripshow.com/patron.
Hmm?
It's
It's very
not,
rare.
it's very rare. It is
Yeah.
not every
It's
single thing
not
that you're,
rampant. No,
yeah, it
not
is
in
not
my
as
humble
rampant.
opinion. I always say when I lecture, I tell people this. I said demonic activity is rare, and possession is rarer still. There
I
are different
agree.
stages to possession.
Yeah, there
All
are.
right. Some people say there's three. Some say there's four. I say there's five. The first stage we call vexation, which is
Yeah.
basically an annoyance. Something that's done to annoy you, and most people wouldn't even wouldn't notice something like that. Or maybe you're sitting there and your water bottle goes flying across the room, and you're like, "What was that?"
I don't know. That's not
Something.
an annoyance to me. That's an
Well, I
intention
mean, if it
getter.
only happens,
I'm just
if it
saying.
happens, vexations are things that happen once or twice, and then they don't ever happen again.
Okay.
Okay. When those vexations or those annoyances or disturbances become more frequent, then we have what we call infestation. And an
Mm.
infestation is when you get movement of objects, doors opening and closing, cabinets opening and closing. You might hear noises, voices, scratching, furniture moving. Typical, I hate to say it this way, but typical haunted house stuff. You
Sounds
know,
like poltergeist activity.
well, poltergeist activity is another term for that, which is just a German term that just means noisy ghost or mischievous ghost. Um, but some of those things, in my opinion, can be self-manifested. The mind is a very powerful thing. So is this really happening? Do I have a ghost, a spirit, a demon, or is it my imagination? This is why you have to do your research, and you need to be educated. And that's where I was fortunate. I was educated by some very good people And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't agree with the Warrens or their methods, and they call them charlatans and phonies. Look, and what I tell those people is, look, you're talking about people that you never met in your life. I grew up with these people. I called them my grandparents. That's what they were to me. A matter of fact, I am the age now, exactly. My wife and I are the age that the Warrens were when we met them. So for me, this has come full circle. I haven't
Yeah.
wasted 40 years of my life on a hoax. The Warrens were wonderful people. They were very giving. I've laughed with them. I've cried with them. I've been shoulder to shoulder with them on cases, many of them insignificant in the sense that they didn't make it to TV or Hollywood, but we helped people. We brought
Yeah.
peace and understanding to people that were terrified, that were frightened. Whether they had a paranormal issue or not, we helped them. And we didn't ask anything. Where the Warrens made their money was through their lecturing. They did lectures at colleges and universities, and they had books.
Yeah.
Okay? That's where they made their money. The Warrens, to my knowledge, the people that I knew, never charged a cent. And when people tell me, oh, well, Joe, this, I said, well, listen, I can speak intelligently about the people that I knew. Okay? I'm 57 years old now. I met them when I was 18 years old. That was 39 years. I think I knew these people pretty intimately. I said, and I can speak intelligently about the people that I knew.
Right.
Okay? If Ed allegedly did or said something back in 1962, I don't know. I wasn't even alive yet. All right? I
Yeah,
will
I don't know,
defend
guy. I wasn't here.
I mean, I will defend the people that I knew. They were wonderful people. They were very giving. Lorraine had a heart of gold. I think I saw Lorraine get angry twice in my life, and thank God it wasn't at me. But, but the woman had a heart of gold. She would stay after lectures and try to answer every person's question, as she could, and people flocked around her. She was like a beacon. And I love these people as if they were family, and they considered me family, and I'm honored by that. And all I'm trying to do is keep their legacy and their life's work alive, and continue to do this and teach what I know. I don't know everything, Tracy. I never profess to know everything. To me, this work it's a life's journey. It's a labor of love, and I'm still learning every day. And I can learn from the guy standing next to me that might be a newbie as much as I can learn from someone that's been doing this longer than I have. Okay? But we have to let our egos accept that. Okay? You have to let your ego accept that. You know what? Maybe I don't know everything. Or maybe the Warrens were good people. Maybe they weren't charlatans, or, I've heard them called many, many bad things. And it hurts me personally because I'm like, you didn't know them. You're speaking about people that I loved, people that I knew. It's like
Yeah.
someone talking bad about your grandparent that may have passed away. And like, no, they were wonderful people. What do you mean? Where'd you hear this information? Well, I read it on the internet. Well, then it must be true.
Well, there you go. The truth is always on the internet, isn't it?
I just wish people would have an open mind. That's all I
Yeah.
ask. Have an open mind. A lot of these debunkers out there, they call themselves debunkers, and that's fine. God bless you. Sometimes I agree with these people. But some of them I've heard say, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in demons. I'm like, well, if you don't believe, then you can't be a debunker because you don't have an open mind. You have to be open, at least open to the idea that this does exist. And
Yeah,
if you're
you have
not,
to have that as an option on the table because if
yeah,
it's not, then you're only going to track and see what you want to see.
it's mind-boggling to me. And I don't engage people directly. I never engage in a social platform. I have had issues with some people with what they've said about the Warrens. I'd send people a private message. And I'm like, look, here's my phone number. Call me, text me. I will personally talk to you about the people that I knew and loved. And maybe I could change your perception. But if you're going to be so close-minded about it and said these people were worthless pieces of you know what, they're just bilking the public and in it for the money, well, then there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to change your mind. I'm not even going to waste my energy. But I
Exactly.
want I want people to know that people that might be on the fence that hear all this negativity, that take it from me, and you don't know me from Adam, but I'm an honest, straight shooter. All I have is my name and my integrity, and neither one of them are for sale. My dad taught me that. I
Yeah.
have to wake up every morning. I have to look in that mirror, and I have to like what I see.
And plus, I don't think your grandfather would allow that either. I think
No,
he would probably put a spiritual boot in your butt.
and I would expect that. I would I would be honored if I've grown up to be just a patch on my grandfather's shoulder. All right, that
I
man
think
I
you were a
loved and
lot more than
respected.
that, Joe. I think you were a ring around his heart.
Thank you. This work means a lot to me, and I know we talked a lot when I saw you, and I can't wait to see you again.
I
But
know. I'm
you know,
excited.
it hurts me. It just hurts me to see what's going on in the field today,
Yeah.
and all the hatred and animosity and jealousy and the narcissism. Oh my God! You know, there's a famous line I remember from President Ronald Reagan. I remember he said it in one of his speeches, and I was just a young teenager at the time. But the line goes something like this: Today, it's not enough to be, equal in the eyes of God. We need to be equal in the eyes of one another.
Yeah.
And I
And
tell
that
you, if the people did that, we'd have far less problems in this world. No one is
well,
better than anybody else. We all put our pants on the same way. We all bleed when we get cut. It bothers me, but I try to shield myself from it. I get emotional about it sometimes, but I got to keep moving forward. You know.
no, I completely understand because I look at it this way is that we're all humans and we're complex. We're complex naturally. Like we have multiple sides to us as human beings. All of
Yep.
us do, right? We're not all just one thing. We're not all just this or all just that. We are made up of just a all of us are like a beautiful mosaic puzzle that just somehow comes together, and maybe
That's a
some
beautiful
people
way to put
only
it.
focus in on one or two of the pieces because that's all
Mm.
they see, you know, whatever, whether it's the public eye or books or online, that's all they're focused on. They're very myopic and they're not focusing on like, oh, she was a mom.
Mm.
Oh, she was a grandma. And
Hmm.
he was a dad and an uncle and a
A
mentor.
mentor, a friend,
Yeah,
a confidant.
and sometimes, and we all get this way about everything, but yeah, sometimes if we just kind of, I like to say, like, we might not like people and their behavior can be disgusting and deplorable, but
Mm.
it's kind of like, you know, let's, let's temper it down a bit because there can be a lot anyway, there could be a lot going on, but people um are going just, why do you think the ultimate fascination is with all of these haunted dolls lately? Not
No,
just
that's an
with
excellent question. I
Annabelle.
don't know because, and I keep saying my opinion because it is my opinion, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. But we need to respect that, whether we believe them or agree with them or not. We should respect that we are all entitled to our opinion. Now, when you get into haunted dolls and haunted objects, which may be a subject I'm speaking about actually in San Antonio, but my belief is that God would not allow a human spirit to inhabit an inanimate object.
Okay.
Okay. And haunted items, dolls, can they be haunted? Yes, I believe they can, but it's the energy that we bring to that. It's the recognition, it's the intention of our own free will. Okay. Obviously, if you're going to hold a seance, which is what happened with Annabelle originally, the nurses that had the doll, they would hold seances and they would give all this recognition to this doll. So whatever came through the doll, I was only 2 years old at the time. This is back in 1970. Whatever came through that doll, do I believe the stories? Yeah, most of them. I believe that this doll or whatever energy, negative energy, I stopped short of saying it was a demon, but it could have been, inhabited this doll and, would make this doll move. The doll would walk. The doll was seen standing. Now, Raggedy Ann dolls can't stand. It's impossible, without being supported by something. The doll attacked people, or at least the dream that the girl's boyfriend had of it attacking him. So do I believe it's possible? Yes, because I have an open mind about these things. I've never seen the doll fly out of its case. I've never seen the doll even move in its case. Okay, but I have an open mind and I have faith. And what is faith? To quote a line from the movie Miracle on 34th Street, I always say
Mhm.
this: faith is believing in something that common sense tells you not to. Okay,
Yeah.
we all have to have faith in something. Okay, something. Do we believe in air? Well, we must. It sustains life, but we can't see it. We can't touch it, but it's there. We know it's there. We have to believe in something. And if you don't have faith, then, I feel sorry for you. And, that's got to be a tough way of living. But to be closed minded and say this does not exist, well, you're entitled to believe that. That's fine. But don't mock other people for believing that it does exist and make fun of them. What gives you
Yeah.
the right to do that? That's not fair. I look at the world as we are all brothers and sisters in this world,
Mhm.
regardless of what color you are, what background you are, what political beliefs you share. It doesn't matter. Like you said, we all put our pants on the same way. When we
Yep.
cut ourselves, we all bleed the same blood red. It's just if we would just all respect each other, and I know that's kind of impossible. We're not all cut from the same cloth. We're all individuals. We're all different. We're all entitled to our beliefs. You know, my faith is stronger in this because I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced this in cases I've worked on through the years.
Right.
Now people don't want to believe me and people think I'm full of hooey. Well, okay, God bless you. You're entitled to believe that way. I'm not going to waste my time or energy trying to change your mind, but I know I've helped a lot of people, and that's my payment. To be able to look in the eyes of a person or a family
Right.
and see them crying happy tears and said, "My God, I haven't slept like this well in months or years. Thank you for your help." And I may not have did
Oh.
anything. I may have really not really done anything, but
Yeah.
sat there, lend a shoulder to cry on, listen, hear them out, go through the motions, give them some advice. Okay, make sure they take that advice and do their homework. And all of a sudden, things usually turn out okay.
Things usually start to turn out okay.
There's I
So
think John Lennon said it best. He said, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
it's not the end then. Wow.
That's the way I
So
approach things.
so in your experience with the Annabelle case,
Hmm?
the nurses kind of opened up and uh would you call it like an egregore? Like they accidentally invoked something through
Yeah.
thinking about it, or that?
There's, yeah, I'm
And I'm
thinking,
not blaming them. I want to make sure I'm
no,
not
they didn't
blaming
know.
them.
They didn't know they didn't understand what they were doing. I don't blame them, but, um, I guess they gave the doll a lot of recognition. In other words, they would buy dresses for the doll. They would buy jewelry for the doll. They would, from what I understand, again, I was only 2, 3 years old when this case happened. But from what my mentors told me, and why would they lie to me? Why would they
Yeah,
lie
why
to me?
would Ed and Lorraine
Okay.
lie to you?
They treated the doll as it was a little girl or, a little girl. And they would buy dresses and they would sit it at the breakfast table and the dinner table. They would set a place for it. And then one day, as Ed tells the story, the doll's arms levitated up onto the table. Now, I'm sure they were kind of freaked out by this, but as Ed puts it, it more intrigued them than it scared them. They wanted to know more. They're like, maybe there's a human spirit within this doll. And I guess I'm remembering the story, there was these two roommates. They were nurses. I believe they worked at the Institute of Living in Hartford, Connecticut. And they said, well, so and so at work, she's a medium. She does seances. I'm like, oh no.
Oh shit.
So yeah, now we got divination, but that's some. We'll get into that later if we have time. So they had the nurse, and they would conduct seances to try to make contact or connection with this spirit. Well, when you do that, and you give this recognition, you're opening yourself up wide open for this. And normally, usually, and in most cases, it's not going to be a good spirit that comes through. It's going to be something negative or something that wants your soul, something that's waiting for that invitation. Because now it's like, oh, okay, they just invited me in. But you don't know what you're letting in. They were of the belief that this was a little girl named Annabelle Higgins, I think the name was, if I'm remembering correctly. Forgive me if I'm not. And there's different stories where the girl lived in the neighborhood and was killed in a car accident or was struck by a
Right.
car, something
Right.
like that. And this is where I say, in my opinion, and in my religious beliefs, God wouldn't allow the spirit of a human spirit of a little girl to inhabit a doll. Chucky, he's just a movie, you know. But so whatever was in that doll was far more sinister, in my opinion. And then as they kept opening themselves up more and more, it's gonna draw you in. It's gonna play on your sympathy.
Ah,
And it's gonna let you believe, yeah, I'm a little girl, yeah. Until now, it's like, God, now I got you. And then things started happening where one of the boyfriend and one of the girls was, I guess he was napping on the couch one day, and he woke up with a start. And so I just had a horrible dream that that doll over there was on top of me, choking me. He gets up, he picks up the doll, throws it across the room, and he's just a stupid rag doll. And before the doll hits the ground, he had slashes that would appear on his chest, what we call psychic slashes. I don't think they were really there, but they showed up when the blood came through the shirt and everything. I believe shortly after they disappeared. Psychic slashes meaning that they were meant for people to see and feel, but then they would disappear. Um, it's another thing that happened in the case of Ronald Hunkler, who was the movie The Exorcist was based on. So I talk about this in my lectures just as an educational piece to get people to understand that, yes, this did happen in real life, but this is Hollywood.
yeah. And
Hollywood
most
takes a
people
lot of
don't.
liberties with movies.
Oh yeah, they do.
When
And most people in Hollywood, you brought up a very good point. Most people in Hollywood don't know that The Exorcism was based off of a little boy, not a girl.
Yeah, they changed a lot for the movie, but the real boy's name, which I can mention because it's out there on the internet, was Ronald Edwin Hunkeler.
I'm
He
not
just
even sure
died
if
in
he's still alive.
2020,
I was
5
gonna
years ago.
say, is he still alive?
Passed away at the age of 84, almost 85 in 2020. I did some research because I talk about it. I want to make sure I'm speaking intelligently about it. And it was a 14-year-old boy back in 1949. Well, the way that the entry point here, or the vehicle that was used, was the Ouija board.
Yeah.
Very dangerous to use Ouija board.
And we'll
It's
and
not the
we'll
board itself, it's the intent. It's the
exactly. That's what
intention.
I was
It's,
gonna say.
yeah, it's the free
And
will.
we'll talk more about that in the
Okay,
patron only podcast.
okay,
You
sorry.
know,
I get long-winded.
no, I know. You've got juicy, you've got juicy tidbits for everybody, and I'm sure a lot of people are just, you know, hanging on to their radios to hear what you have to say because, first off, it's historic. Second off, it's a side of stories that nobody knows because you're not really out there on the mean streets of social media, flapping your jaw. I just got
Mm.
really, I got really lucky to get you on this show.
Well,
And the
thank you. It's very kind of you to
timing
say.
happened to be very interesting, shall we say. Divine timing, some might say on there.
We were meant to meet.
We were definitely meant to meet. When I came up that hill and he said, "Hey there, neighbors, you need any help?" Yes, I do need help. Yes, I do. You have no
But
idea.
maybe not the kind I can provide.
No, I was needed help because I was like, oh yeah, I need help setting stuff up
Yeah.
because sometimes it can get complicated. Um,
Well, I was
but
glad to be
but
of service.
but you want to play a game?
Sure.
Okay, so we are gonna play a game called Book It or Book It, and this is what we're gonna do. We are gonna go to my favorite Instagram account, one of them called Cheap Old Houses.
Hmm.
And we're gonna look through a few of them and
Hmm.
we're going to just kind of talk about maybe the energy or what we're seeing in there. And we're going to decide, are we going to book it there for the evening, or are we going to book it the hell out of
Mm-hmm.
there? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's have some fun here. All right. And we are. We're gonna. Okay. All right. Let's see. Can you see this?
I can.
You can. Okay. So for the listeners, if you actually want to see these listings, guys, go over to my YouTube, or if you're on my Patreon channel, that's where the real chats happen at. Okay, for everybody here, we are in, it looks like Zanesville, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
We've got $135,000 a mansion. Okay. So I really don't know. It is a very 2 to 3.5 story mansion with cascading stone steps going inside of it, double columns, balcony, 2 story balcony. And if you're interested, it does have 1.5 baths. Now, it doesn't have too much creep factor, but I can look at this, Joe, and I'm scratching my head because I really want to go inside and I want to see if I can get all the way upstairs in that back attic space
Mm-hmm.
on there. What are your first impressions of the house? You like it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't mean to be a killjoy, but there's not any place that I would not go.
Okay.
I actually kind of half joking to a couple of friends a couple of weeks ago. I said, you find the scariest places that even the most seasoned paranormal investigators don't want to go into, and I go in there alone. I'm just not afraid. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not Superman, but I'm like, look, I'm fascinated with it. But you won't see Joe Franke running out of anywhere unless the place is on fire.
Oh, well, we're not exactly going to run out of here because you'll see
Hmm.
more about, like,
Yeah,
are we willing to stay the evening in here?
yeah,
And you'll see.
absolutely.
So we've got a side view of the house. She does look a little, she looks like she could use a facelift, y'all.
Mm.
Um, she definitely has seen a thing or two, and I can just tell by looking at her. Like, I keep seeing in my mind coroners come and go a couple of times, so I feel like there have been a couple of family deaths in this home, um or
Hmm.
people who have lived in this home.
So it's a psychologically impacted property.
Yes.
That's what we
Yes.
call it. The real estate world calls it. Were there
Ah,
deaths there, suicides, murders? I mean, you know, ghost stories. It's a
it probably.
psychologically impacted property, and that's a very real thing that can affect the market value or the price. I mean, what anything's worth what anybody's willing to pay for it. You know.
Exactly. But this has one of my favorite features, and if anybody's been listening for any amount of time, it's got the wooden pocket doors.
Oh, I love those. Yeah, I see that.
So the front foyer is all gorgeous woodwork. It looks pretty, it looks pretty friendly. It looks pretty welcoming, but like I said, I want to scratch below the surface of this house and
Mm-hmm. Let's
see
do it.
what else um could be impacting going on here. Um I feel like multiple families lived here over time, but I feel like there's just like one person who's lived here the longest. It also feels like this place could have been like apartments at one time or something. That's where it feels. Who's ever had this place has kept it up and maintained it.
Yeah, the workmanship is amazing.
But I do wonder who's ever lived here before, if they ever hear somebody constantly going up and down these steps. Like, I feel like constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they hear that noise all the time. And I think somebody was wheelchair bound in here because I keep hearing like somebody with like a squeaky wheelchair would
Mm-hmm.
go around. And we have my other favorite thing in house, Joe. built-in shelves and closet.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. This room seems it's all right, but
Well, judging from the floors, it looks like it's been very well kept, but very lived in. A
lived
lot of
in
foot
is a
traffic.
yes, lived in. Oh, look it up there. Somebody has lived here a long time because there's those pull bells
Mm-hmm.
to alert I don't know, people in the kitchen. This kitchen area, this butler's pantry definitely needs some cleaning up here. Um
Oh
ooh,
yeah,
what
if
was
you look, those floors look nice. You redo those hardwood floors, a couple of coats of polyurethane, sand them down. They'd be gleaming.
they would be gleaming. Yeah, this is a nice room, but I do feel like whoever is going to buy this house up is going to have some definite house guests that maybe they did not expect.
Oh, it depends too. I mean, people have lived in houses and had problems, and the next people moved in and said nothing's happened to me here because it
Nothing's happened.
wasn't meant for them.
Exactly.
Wasn't meant for
Exactly.
them.
You want to look at another house?
Sure, I love it.
All right. All right, here we go.
This
Let's
is fun.
see. Okay, we're going to share this tab. Okay, I
It's a
found this
beautiful house.
gym right up in your kind of neck-ish of the woods. Okay.
Cambridge, yeah. Not
And
far from me.
exactly 80,000 it says. Let's see, tower rooms, everybody. This is a it looks like it was a beautiful two and a half, 3-story semi-Victorian house with towers on it. And everybody knows I love the freaking towers in here. That's yeah, that is absolutely my jam. It looks picturesque from the side of the road, but
Mm-hmm.
I think she's got some stories to tell. Why do I feel like that had a restaurant in it at one point?
It almost
Uh,
looks like it could be an old tavern back in the
yeah,
Revolutionary War days.
it does. Because look at this. That's an odd place to have a second side door.
It's beautiful.
It is
From what I could
beautiful.
see on the screen,
Yeah.
$80,000 in Cambridge, Mass.
So, but look
Love
at
the
her.
staircase.
She needs some work, y'all. She definitely needs a facelift on the
Oh yeah.
inside.
From TLC, this place could be beautiful.
This, but it I want to see another. Oh, uh-oh. We might have some friends in the ceiling coming down and dropping on us, Joe.
Yeah, some furry friends.
Some furry friends. No, yeah. But did you notice below this they used to have the walls all pink?
Yeah, it's hard to tell from the little picture, but I do see the pink. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely is. I can feel very clearly that, like, I think it just feels like mischievous little boys lived here at one time, really, like, and I feel like they were either like Irish twins or they were twins at one time.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like residual energy that I pick up on here
Mm-hmm.
about that. Very, very, very rambunctious and playful boys here. Okay, we've got like an open parlor here with a bay window and yeah, somebody it looks like they're either moving in or moving out, one of the two. But this would be a really kick-ass like reading room for me, or if you wanted to have a proper seance, you know, proper set and
Mm-hmm.
setting, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course. Ooh, that looks like lonely. That picture says lonely to me in that
Yeah,
room.
because you see a solitary chair there,
Well,
and
it's
an
not
otherwise
only that, it just has
empty
that
room.
essence of being alone. I don't know.
But again, it looks very lived in.
It does.
The worn floors tell me that.
Oh god. Look at this mystery door. I love a good mystery door, Joe.
Hmm.
I would probably send you first and I'd be like, "I'll be right behind you.
Yeah, I'll go in first. I don't mind.
I'll be right here at the top of the steps, I swear." I'm not going nowhere. Ah, that's an interesting little side room.
Looks like a playroom.
It does. It looks like maybe something that could lead into like a mother-in-law suite on there. Oh, see, those are the spaces that I get the
Hmm.
heebie-jeebies about. The attic
Is that
spaces,
the
like,
attic?
yes, the attic spaces that look and feel like this. The
Yeah.
long hallway
Yeah, I
with,
love those.
ah, I love them, but they have to look and feel properly because even
Those are
looking
the yeah. Those are the kinds of rooms that Ed would send me to. No,
that was his
seriously.
training ground.
Well, yeah. He would say, go up to the attic or the basement or whatever, to a remote area of the home by yourself with a recorder and a flashlight, and just sit there and see if you experience anything and document it. And I would. I mean, obviously I was apprehensive when I was younger. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? In many cases, nothing happened.
Well,
You
yeah,
know, but your mind plays tricks on you. You
your
said the
mind
only
can
thing you have
play
to
tricks
fear
on
is
you.
fear itself, right? I mean, once you can get over that initial fear, it's like, okay, I'm here. I've told people, I said, I go in there by myself, just strap some cameras to me or whatever. If something
Watch what
happens, I'll
Jasper
document it, but
just
I'm not
might
going to
get
go
it.
running from the place. I would make for a boring YouTube channel probably.
No, I think you'd make for a fantastic YouTube channel. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. It is official with Joe Franke on board. We are going to be booking it for the evening there.
Yeah.
Because with him there, he is not scared, ladies and gentlemen, on that. Well, if you want more of Joe, come on over to the Patreon because that's where I'm going to be continuing my conversation with him about all kinds of, well, some more interesting topics that I think you're going to want to be able to tune into, but thank you to my audience, thank you to my Patreons who support these endeavors. And if you like this episode, let Spotify or wherever you are tuning into know that you love the Haunted Road Trip Show. And until next time, guys, we will see you.
That's it for today's journey into the unknown. Thank you for listening, and thank you to my Patreon members for their support and all they do for this show. And if you're dying to see these haunted road trips in action, you can also watch Haunted Road Trip Show on Binge TV, where paranormal history is dying to be seen and heard. Until next time, stay weird, y'all. Real weird.